After reports of a chaotic shootout in the Haitian capital late Wednesday, the police announced they had killed 4 assassins and arrested 2 members of the commando that assassinated President Jovenel Moïse. The National Board of Justice of Peru removed the magistrate of the National Jury of Elections, Luis Arce Cordova, over revelations of a lack of impartiality. Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa, was taken into custody to begin serving a 15-month prison sentence for contempt of court after handing himself in. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Katrina Goss. After reports of a chaotic shootout in the Haitian capital late Wednesday, the police announced that they had killed 4 assassins and arrested 2 members of the commando that assassinated President Jovenel Moïse. Haiti's police chief, Leon Charles, said that the security forces were in control of the situation, even as he acknowledged that other suspected members of the hit squad remained at large. Authorities did not identify those killed or in custody and offered no evidence of their involvement in Moïse's death. Immediately after the president's death was confirmed, Interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph closed the Port-au-Prince airport and declared a state of siege for 15 days. Following this decision, the police and the army are authorized to prohibit any gathering that could, quote, encourage disorder in the country. In less than 48 hours, Joseph went from being on the verge of being removed from the post to concentrating power in the country. On Monday, in an attempt to reach out to sectors of the opposition, Moïse had appointed Ariel Henry, a doctor who has not yet been sworn in as Prime Minister.
Four mercenaries were killed. 2 were intercepted under our control. 3 policemen who had been taken hostage have been recovered. The First Lady is out of danger. She's being treated in Florida, and according to the information we have, her situation is stable.
And more reactions on Moïse's assassination are coming in from the Caribbean region.
For a country like Haiti to have, its leader assassinated cold-bloodedly like this, that cannot go unpunished.
In Haiti, they are concerned about tomorrow. They are scared about tomorrow.
Of the situation in Haiti, and since Haiti is a CARICOM member, we all have to be concerned because the whole state of play, what is taking place in Haiti at this time, must be a concern for all peace-loving and democratic-minded persons throughout the entire world.
I spoke to the president on Monday. I know he was in a very good spirit. He was really adamant to carry out his policies, and particularly the elections. He believes that it's very important for Haiti to hold elections, and he was very concerned as well for the security situation.
And warnings are being issued on the opportunistic use of events in Haiti by foreign interests. Christopher Bernardel, member of the Haiti Committee of the Human Rights Project Black Alliance for Peace, has called for anti-intervention approach on the matter.
The Black Alliance for Peace, our number one position is that of an anti-imperialist position. We would condemn any foreign intervention into Haiti, any foreign intervention by outside powers to come in and influence the process further. The Haitian people are responsible for the country of Haiti, and it is up to them to come in and take responsibility for the country and for the situation. The role of the U.S. in Haiti has been the opposite. They haven't been a stabilizing force. They have been more of an occupying force in Haiti, an interventionist, imperialist force that has tried to control the internal affairs of Haiti through organizations like the UN and the OAS.
The United Nations Security Council plans to hold an emergency meeting Thursday afternoon to discuss Haiti in the wake of President Jovenel Moïse's assassination. Authorities claim the attack was launched by mercenaries posing as agents of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. In a statement, members unanimously called for all parties to remain calm, exercise restraint and avoid any act that could contribute to further instability. Meanwhile, Ariel Henry, the newly named Prime Minister, who had yet to be installed, also insisted he is the rightful person to lead the country in the aftermath of Moïse's killing, not the interim Prime Minister, Claude Joseph. The country is currently has no functioning parliament and is uncertain when or even whether the elections slated for the fall will take place. In other news, another massacre has been confirmed in Colombia. Authorities found the bodies of 4 victims in the central department of Meta. The remains, 3 women and 1 male, may match the description of 4 people reported missing on May 27th. Meta is where the first social leader was killed this year, a teacher named Gerardo Leon. This is the 49th massacre registered in Colombia so far in 2021. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The National Board of Justice of Peru removed the magistrate of the National Jury of Elections, Luis Arce Cordova, over revelations regarding a lack of impartiality in the midst of the ongoing electoral process. The removal of the Supreme Prosecutor was approved unanimously in the plenary session of the board on Wednesday. It was pointed out that Cordova did not fulfill the functional duties of the law while holding this top post. Cordova currently faces 2 disciplinary processes. The first was initiated following revelations of his conversations with former Supreme Judge Cesar Hinostroza Pariachi in 2020. Cordova is alleged to have helped Hinostroza in cases that were in the hands of the National Jury of Elections. President of Colombia, Iván Duque, rejected a number of recommendations from the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights on abuses committed by security forces against demonstrators during the national strike protests. The Colombian president claimed that the recommendations proposed that his government be tolerant towards acts of criminality, something he could not accept. The set of 40 observations and recommendations made by the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights came after a mission was sent to the country in the midst of the protests and widespread repression. The Commission condemned the acts of violence against demonstrators by the security forces. Chile mourns Luisa Toledo, the mother of 2 young resistance fighters assassinated by the military dictatorship in 1985. She was an icon of radical political consequence. After the execution of her 2 sons, aged 18 and 20, by Carabineros, Chile's militarized police, and during her entire life, Toledo and her husband became frontline activists for human rights, including participation in Chile's popular uprising of October 2019. They never forgot or forgave their sons' killers nor their masterminders. The date of the Vergara Toledo brothers' execution, March 29th, became the Day of the Young Combatant. That day, every year, thousands in Santiago's large poor districts erect barricades and brave repression, particularly in their neighborhood of Villa Francia, where hundreds are now paying their respects to Toledo. Former Brazilian President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva would beat Jair Bolsonaro in any electoral scenario, according to opinion polls. Presidential elections are due in 2022. Survey data reveals that Lula has a preference of 43 to 45% of respondents against 28 to 29% for Bolsonaro. 67% of those surveyed expressed disapproval of Bolsonaro. Lula has been cleared by Brazil's judiciary of all charges fabricated against him by the right-wing former judge Sergio Moro in the context of a wide anti-corruption case called Lava Jato. Moro falsely accused and convicted Lula for taking bribes from a large construction company and put him in jail to prevent his participation in the 2018 elections. The head of the World Health Organization provided a pessimistic update on the coronavirus crisis, saying the world was at a perilous point. Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus pointed out that too many countries in every region of the world were recording surges in the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases and of patients requiring hospitalization. The WHO emergency chief warned governments to exercise extreme caution in fully lifting restrictions aimed at curtailing the spread of COVID-19, stressing that transmission would only increase further as countries open up. He noted that the coronavirus continued to evolve and change, meaning governments had to be very, very careful at this moment, and it was important to maintain the upper hand in the battle against the virus.
The world is at perilous point in this pandemic. We have just passed the tragic milestone of 4 million recorded COVID-19 deaths, which likely underestimates the overall toll. Some countries with high vaccination coverage are now planning to roll out booster shots in the coming months and are dropping public health social measures and relaxing as though the pandemic is already over. However, compounded by fast-moving variants and shocking inequity in vaccination, far too many countries in every region of the world are seeing sharp spikes in cases and hospitalization.
The global struggle against manipulation and censorship by global social media monopolies found Wednesday a new ally, former United States President Donald Trump. Facebook, Google and Twitter, as well as their heads, Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai and Jack Dorsey, respectively, are the targets of a Trump legal action for having wiped out his accounts in January on the grounds of spreading false information regarding the US presidential elections. The non-profit America First Policy Institute introduced the label on behalf of Trump. These elites and their firms ride roughshod over some of the most fundamental American rights, the right to speak, the right to be heard, and the right to democratic representation, the Institute said. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us.
Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough, and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Welcome back to From the South. Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa, was taken into custody to begin serving a 15-month prison sentence for contempt of court. The sentence was handed down by the Constitutional Court since Zuma refused to testify before a judicial commission investigating widespread allegations of corruption during his presidential term from 2009 to 2018. Zuma, a former combatant of the African National Congress's armed wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, faces 16 charges of fraud, graft and racketeering relating to a 1999 purchase of fighter jets, patrol boats and military gear from 5 European arms firms. Zuma has a strong support base in his royal homestead of Nkanda and in northern KwaZulu-Natal.
I'm happy because the rule of law is what we should be guided by, and I'm happy that no one lost their lives or there was no violence, but him going to jail is better for the country because it shows everyone that no one is above the law, and ultimately we must follow what the Constitution says for all of us.
You know, the law applies equally to me, to you, every other citizen. There cannot be a separate law applicable to an ex-president. And unfortunately, he's got a lot to answer for in the state capture inquiry. By conservative amounts, 49 billion rand has been looted from the country. Others say it's even more. Can you imagine what the ANC government could have done with 49 billion rand?
Egypt's Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry urged the UN Security Council to adopt a resolution giving international clout to efforts to resolve a dispute over Ethiopia's new hydroelectric dam on the Blue Nile. Egypt and Sudan have appealed to the Security Council to intervene in the dispute and to help the countries avert a crisis. Egypt, which relies on the Nile for more than 90% of its water supplies and already faces high water stress, fears a devastating impact on its booming population of 100 million. Sudan, which also depends on the Nile for water, has played a key role in bringing the two sides together. Filling the dam without an agreement could bring the standoff to a critical juncture. Both Egypt and Ethiopia have hinted at military steps to protect their interests, and experts fear a breakdown in talks could lead to open conflict.
All of the three countries should commit themselves to not taking any unilateral actions. Unfortunately, the Ethiopians have informed us officially that they have undergone the second unilateral filling of the reservoir, which is a violation of their commitment under the 2015 declarations of principles that deemed it necessary before the filling of the reservoir that an agreement is reached. But in any case, we believe that any further actions should be restricted until the conclusion of an agreement.
A container ship anchored in Dubai caught fire, causing an explosion that sent tremors across the commercial hub of the United Arab Emirates. The blast unleashed a shockwave through the city, shaking buildings and windows in neighbourhoods as far as 25 kilometres away from the port. Early Thursday, the Dubai government issued a statement saying that emergency services had brought the blaze under control. The extent of damage caused to the port and surrounding cargo was not immediately clear. The port is not only a critical global cargo hub, but a lifeline for Dubai and surrounding Emirates, serving as the point of entry for essential imports. Dozens of angry protesters clashed with police in the Kenyan capital of Nairobi as they demanded an end to lockdowns and curfews put in place to fight the spread of the coronavirus. Demonstrators also called for an end to what they say has been police brutality in the country, especially towards younger people. Police responded to the demonstrations by shooting live bullets into the air and throwing tear gas. Kenyan authorities have currently imposed a nationwide curfew from 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. as part of restrictions to combat the spread of COVID-19. Zimbabwe has returned to strict lockdown measures in a bid to combat a resurgence of COVID-19 amid vaccine shortages. Trying to contain the spread, most people must stay at home, similar to restrictions adopted in March last year when towns and cities became almost deserted. Infections have soared in recent weeks despite a night curfew. Zimbabwe is one of more than 14 African countries where the Delta variant is quickly spreading. And now some good news. Efforts to conserve the giant panda have been successful, and today it's no longer an endangered species but a vulnerable species. The number of wild giant pandas has risen to 1,800 individuals, and with this they've gone from endangered to vulnerable status, according to China's Department of Ecological Protection of the Ministry of Ecology and Environment. For years, the Chinese government has made great efforts to recover its endemic species and national icon. Although the panda has been downgraded to vulnerable status, it remains a threatened species, according to the Red List of the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Now we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website and telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. Plus you can catch up on our shows on our YouTube channel. For TeleSUR English, I'm Katrina Glass. Thank you for watching.